What's up everyone, Coach Paul here. I'm going to break down the trap bar deadlift and all the different variations, cues, mistakes that I see when coaching people through this or just on the internet or things that I've had to do to fix myself so that I make sure I'm doing this pain-free and still able to go really heavy. And so I'm going to give you a bunch of different views, different angles, and different ways to think about it. But the first thing I always say is got to make sure that the breath's tight and that the pillar and the rib cage stacked over the pelvis. A lot of people go up to a deadlift, whether it's barbell, trap bar, whatever it is, even a squat, and they're already in this position. Doesn't matter what cues we give, until that rib cage is pulled down and pulled in line with the pelvis, you're not gonna have that strong, stable core. You're gonna have back problems over and over and over again. That's where you're gonna get those injuries that are either recurring or new injuries are popping up. So whether I'm stepping into the bar right here, or I'm coming up to a bar, I always wanna make sure, all right, first thing I wanna make sure is get that rib cage pulled down. So that rib cage is pulled down. Now from here, I like to do a few different things. So I get that rib cage pulled down, I'm gonna send my hips back. So a really good way to think about a hinge is you're keeping your shins vertical and you wanna send those hips back towards that back wall. You'd also think about closing a car door. If you got groceries in your hand, you're like, boop, gotta close that car door. Now where a lot of people make this mistake is they think it's here. That torso's gotta lean towards the ground as you send the hips back. Keeping those shins vertical is a really good cue to help you think, all right, I'm not going into hyperextension. I'm not squatting into it. With the shins vertical, it literally is just the hips. Hips coming down, hips coming down, hips coming down. Now from here, I'm in a good position for a deadlift. I got knees under my hips, shoulders over my hips, and now the next part comes in to the handles. So the thing I like about the trap bar, why it's good for beginners, is because the center of gravity is off to the side, not out in front, so it's a little bit more accessible from a low back stability standpoint, because that center of gravity is a little bit more in line with your core. So now I'm gonna come here, send my hips back. Man, this thing is just rolling all over the place. So now I've got here. And what I like to do here is think about squeezing some oranges in between the armpit. Another way you can think about this is long arms, flexing the triceps. But a big mistake people will make here is as they go to lift, they're either elbows flexed or they crank their shoulders and create a ton of torque in their shoulder joints. We also want to have an isometric hold with this grip. So as you hinge down, coming down, stretch on the hamstrings, really strong grip here. Squeeze those oranges in the shoulder pits, or in the armpits, and you should feel the lats. Feel these muscles right here really engaging. So now from here, I'm in a good starting position. We're not getting ready to lift off just yet because we want to make sure that that breath's tight. Rib cage pulled down, hinging down, shins vertical. So now from here, before I lift off, I'll give it another breath. I'll go breath in. Now I'm gonna pull off. Before you pull off, I wanna make sure that you're creating tension in the hamstrings by driving the feet into the ground. A lot of mistakes that people make is thinking that because it's a deadlift, they gotta lift it off and pull off. That's gonna create a lot of torque in the shoulders, like I mentioned, a lot of low back pain. Rather, you wanna drive into the floor, and you can make sure that you're feeling the glutes and the hamstrings the way you want to, simply by creating that isometric tension before the lift. So you get in this position, all the cues, coming down. So now I'm pulling this bar. You want to take the slack out. You can kind of hear it click, that little click. Now the slack's out. Arms are in a good spot, upper body's in a good spot. Now I'm driving my feet into the ground. Drive, 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 drive. This is a ton of tension in the hamstrings. Then I'm lifting up, coming back down. So simply by making sure that you feel everything where you should feel it before you lift off, it's a good way to check. If you're feeling it low back, pre-lift, you're gonna feel the low back in the lift. As you get to the top of that lift, big mistake people will make is they get up tall, pushing those hips forward. You just wanna stand up, nice long spine. Every time I see this, I just feel, man, that low back's just getting crank, crank, crank. Just wanna stand tall, just come back down, same way you came up. Next, I wanna talk a little bit about the neck position. A lot of people get into this position and they're looking up. We want to think about tucking the chin, staying long in the spine, literally from right here to here should be one long spine or one long line, versus down or up. You're gonna cause a bunch of tension and issues in that upper neck area. So I want to make sure we keep that long. You almost want to double chin it, right? Get real ugly in this. So it's I like to think about looking maybe 3-4 feet out in front of me. That way, as I go into the lift, coming up. Now with the trap bar, there's a few different areas where you're gonna see some variation. One's gonna be the position of, or the angle really of the shins, because you can really turn this from a trap bar deadlift into a squat, into an RDL. None of them are wrong. What you want to ask yourself is, what are the muscles that I'm trying to work here? What's the work that I'm trying to do, and what should the focus be on? And so I like to say, like, if someone's squatting their deadlifts, and I say, hey, where are you feeling this? And they say quads, and we're doing a glute hamstring focus day, well, we need to make some adjustments. But that's one of the things that's really nice about the trap bar is it is so versatile. So you can come into it, maybe you're a little bit more knees forward, chest tall, coming in, boom, squat. This is gonna be quad dominant, or you can get really RDL, Romanian deadlift, torso almost all the way over. Now you're coming all the way up, hinging all the way down. With the deadlift, we're finding some sort of variation in the middle. And again, there's no right, wrong. There's gonna be different limb lengths. There's gonna be different torso, hip mobility issues. And we're just trying to find whatever allows us. So whether it's here, 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 there's a lot of variance that we can have. But the big things are, I wanna drive into the ground, feel it up in here. Everything's gonna be created and stabilized up with that breath. If I could reiterate one thing for so many lifts, to making sure that you get that rib cage down in line with that pelvis. Long here, let those hips get all the way forward. And then as you're hinging down, like think of it as like you're just a rectangle from shoulder, shoulder, hip to hip, coming down. Now you can reach down into that bar. So one last time through. Take that breath, send the hips back, feel the stretch on the hamstring, shins are vertical, gripping this, get those armpits pulled down away from your ears, pinching those oranges in. Now you're driving into the ground, drive into the ground, breath in. All right. Trap bar deadlift, let me know if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, shoot me a message. Be more than happy to help you guys out.